All right, looks like we are live. Let me give a second to everybody to join. Make sure I'm all closed up. One moment. Okay, all right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy Thursday. My name is Saxon. I am your camera host. For all of you who have been here before, welcome. It's the fourth Thursday of the month, so we are doing the Beyond the Traditional Camera. For those of you who are new here, never been to one of these, welcome. My name is Saxon. I teach the camera classes here at Apt Electronics every Thursday from 5:30 to 7. We bring in new ideas, fresh topics, things that we want to talk about. The class as a whole kind of repeats itself per month, but what we're really trying to get at is to make sure that we hit everybody who's interested in photography. Now, for those who have been here since the very beginning, on the first week, we talk about the very introductory or intro things that comes for photography. We try to keep it as simple as possible. So we're talking about using the automatic setting, doing things in the automatic mode, and learning just very basic rudimentary information on how to use our camera. In the intermediate class, we go a little bit further than that. We talk about things like our f-stop, our shutter speed, the way that ISO works, how we can control light within the camera and the sensor. So we go in more in the manual controls. And then we talk about lenses and important things that you should know about as you're moving forward. In advanced photography, we've already learned how to use the camera. Now it's the secondary motion of what's next. Oh, hold on. I think I have the wrong. Hold on, everybody. I apologize. 1 second. I pulled up the wrong slide, and I just realized that. But in the advanced photography class, we talk about editing our photos. What goes into making a good edit on a photo, and what goes into taking good photos. After that, we discuss advanced accessories, which I think is really important, especially as you start to mature and advanced in your camera career. You're going to start to notice that some accessories just are better suited than others. Now, beyond the traditional camera, which I do apologize, I have it pulled up now. Beyond the traditional camera, we're throwing all that away. We've already learned the basics and the rudimentary of our mirrorless, our DSLRs. But as a photographer, as a cinematographer, as someone who might be trying to go further past what they have in their camera body, I think it's important that we look at what's next. So, to start off, why should we advance past our camera? Portability and travel is a huge aspect of this. They're small, they're easy, they're not very complicated as far as switches, buttons, and controls. Durability is extremely great too. They're very durable products. Things like the action cameras are even waterproof, which is a huge added extra bonus. If you're looking to do photo, you can still do that, but if you're looking for video, which is still becoming more and more popular every day, you have the ability to do that really well with great recording time. And in the drone market, our ability to fly over great distances and actually see everything is a really incredible feature. Now, before we get started, it's important that we talk about one thing, and that is where do your pictures go? And make sure you have 2 of them. We're talking about SD cards. Now, in past classes, especially the intro class, when I talk about SD cards, I'm typically referring to micro or regular SD. But in the action camera or beyond the traditional camera world, micro SD cards are typically what you'll see in a lot of these smaller camera products. Why do these matter? Most of your cameras are going to have some or no internal storage. Things like GoPros or some of the DJI products come with about 8 gigabytes worth of storage in there to get started with. And if you think about that, if you're using some of the highest quality cameras on the drones, that's easily going to fill up in about 10 to 15 minutes worth of footage. So depending on what you're doing, that vacation that you've been planning for a while, you're going to fly and enjoy the drone with, you might want to make sure you pick up a micro SD, and I strongly recommend it. So besides the product you buying not having any storage and you needing this, you want to make sure you buy something with a good read and write speed. And by that I mean within your means, but I wouldn't buy the cheapest card, and I don't necessarily think you need the most expensive card depending on the product that you have. Something that lies in the middle is truly the more sought after or suitable piece. And I would say that as far as read and write is concerned, anywhere from about 50 to 90 megabytes per second for the read and write speed is a great starting point. Now, as far as storage goes, 64 gigabytes or higher is what I would recommend. Reason being is that the video that you're recording takes up a lot of data, a lot of room. Photos can take a lot of data and room too, but videos especially. Having something that's at least 64 gigabytes, even if you're using a 4K camera, should get you in the realm of 40 to maybe 60 minutes worth of video, so at least an hour worth of footage. If you're going on vacation and doing something, you might need even more than that. Now the picture should never live on the memory card. I like to tell people that the memory card is like your car. If your computer is B, and let's say your camera or drone or whatever other piece of equipment you have is A, the memory card starts at point A and goes to point B. You download the photos from your camera product into your computer so you can view them on a larger scale. The idea I like to look at it is like your car. Your car is the same idea, right? You don't live in your car, but your car takes you from work to home every day, or vice versa, or however else that you live. The memory card does something similar. So the photo shouldn't live on there. It's the transportation of your photos from one device to the other that you should be looking this as. So if that's the case, we want to make sure that we take the photos, download them, and clear the SD card in order to continue to reuse it. So these are my simple steps, and you can do it however you like, but this is how I ensure I don't lose photos or videos. We start by landing the drone or turning off the camera unit, and then we're going to wait about 5 seconds. Afterwards, let's remove that card and place it into the card reader. The best practice is always to try to remove the card and try to avoid using the camera to send pictures to and from. What I mean by that is that if it's a pinch, and I get a lot of people who ask this, let's say that you're on vacation, you have maybe 10, 15 photos that are beautiful, you'd love to send them to grandma or friends or family. A lot of these cameras have a beautiful feature built in with the Wi-Fi or Bluetooth capabilities, so you can send your photos back and forth between your devices. But if you want the best resolution and the best image quality, it is strongly recommended to remove the card and insert that into the computer. Using a card reader is always the preferred method. And if you're not familiar with what one of those looks like, there are plenty on the market. We sell here a bunch of apps, but depending on your needs, there might be ones that you need that have extra features. I always like to point out the one on the left. That one from ProMaster has 3 charging hubs. So if you have a computer that's really maybe lacking plug space, this would be a great one to connect into it, and then you can use that to charge your devices and download your images. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. But depending on your setup, your environment, your decor, what you like the most, there are plenty of card readers out there to suit your needs. Now, once we are in the computer, the photos are showing up, we've got them there, what is the next step? I'm particular about where and how I save my photos because I always want to find them later. So, first step, copy photos to a destination folder. Never move them, copy them, and all that basically means is you're duplicating them. And the reason I like to say that is it's your oh-no fund. If something were to go wrong during the transfer and it didn't click or it didn't transfer through properly, by copying them, you're at least guaranteeing you have a duplicate still on the memory card somewhere else. Now, that destination folder, that is just simply you left-clicking and creating a new folder on your computer. I highly recommend it to label it something that makes sense to you. So like for example, I'm going to Spain in 2 weeks from now, and while I'm there, I'm going to take all these photos. As I'm taking pictures, when I come back, I'm going to label it Spain October 2025 trip. And then I'm going to have all the photos in there. Now, 3 years from now, I might forget what year I went to Spain, but I know I went to Spain. So if I type in Spain trip, that folder should pop up. But maybe I forgot that this happened in 2000, or maybe I forgot that I went to Spain, but I knew I went to a country in 2025. If I type in 2025 trip, that folder should then also pop up. Really what I'm trying to get at here is that we want to be able to find these photos later. It's amazing that everyone wants to go out and take pictures, but it's a shame if you're not able to locate and find those memories, especially when you want them or when you're thinking about them. Now, if we're using Explorer, or if we're using Windows, we can use Explorer to find this folder. And if we're using Mac, we can use Finder to find this folder. Again, wherever you want to save it, I typically like to keep it on the desktop, but the other thing that I strongly recommend is to copy them to a second place. What this is your backup. You always want to have a backup when it comes to photos. Computers can get damaged, memory can be lost, things can fall by the wayside and you'll forget about it. But if you at least have everything saved into multiple locations, then you shouldn't have that issue. When you're doing this, the external hard drives or cloud-based solutions like Prime Photo or Google Drive are great options to saving your photos. Once you've done all that, we can eject the card before we physically remove it. And I recommend to format the card in the camera and not erase it on the reader. Again, all this is doing is that it's priming the card inside your camera so the card is prepared for that camera you're using. If you're using the same card on the same camera, you might not necessarily have to do that. You can you can erase the photos in the reader itself while you're still on the computer after you've copied everything over. But I think a real simple way to avoid the stress and avoid all that, take the card, put it back into the camera, go into the camera settings and format the card for that camera. Easy way to really get through everything. Because I'm a visual learner, here is your backup plan as with pictures. It starts with the SD card. That's our image in the top left corner. We then make our way into the computer. We're inserting the card into the computer to download all of our images there. From there, then I recommend putting it into one of two places, either an external hard drive where you can save the images, or a cloud-based solution where you can save your images and videos too. For those of you who aren't familiar with cloud-based solutions, I'd recommend trying them. They're really simple, they're easy. And what I like about them is that they're great as far as you being able to access your photos anywhere that you're at. Adobe Creative Cloud is one of my personal favorites because if you are someone who's going to be editing and you're interested in things like Photoshop, Lightroom, Movie Pro, those types of features are all accessible through Adobe Creative Cloud on their monthly subscription, but then you also get the benefit of that cloud. So, weigh your options, take a look at what's out there, but there are plenty of ways that we can save our photos in a timely manner. Now this is the part everyone gets the most excited for. This is where we start to talk about devices. There are four main device categories that we're going to look at today, and I'm going to tell you the most important features of them, why they're important, and I can answer any questions that you might have on the device. So anybody who's watching live, please feel free to use the chat feature and comment anything you like. I'll make sure I read it out loud, answer your question for you. I just ask that you keep the questions appropriate. Let's start with the GoPro and action cameras. So, action cameras, GoPros, what's the difference? Why do we have different names for them? Well, in general, action cameras are the main category. Within action cameras, you have different brands: DJI, Insta360, GoPro. At the current moment, I feel GoPro is one of the leading industry makers of these products. They've been doing it for some of the longest period of time, and for most of you, you're familiar with the idea of a GoPro camera, even if you don't know that GoPro is a brand. With that being said, these cameras function the same, no matter which one you look at. There are two buttons on the camera, and then the screen is your everything. The top button is a capture button. That'll take the photo or start and stop your video. Your power button then lives on the side. By holding this button down, you will power on and off the unit. You can also use this to toggle between time-lapse, photo, and video. Your screen, though, is the most important aspect of your action camera. I like to say it is your everything. Now, why? It might not be turning your camera on and off, it might not be controlling what mode you're in, but it gives you the ability to be the cinematographer with the settings. So frames per second, angle and lens millimeter size, video quality, hindsight, which is going to be its ability to focus in on targets, and hyper smooth, which is the stabilization that's built into the camera. Front screen then will show you the video, the duration, and it kind of gives you a selfie mode so you can see what you're recording. Again, why do these things matter with this? Well, the reason being is that as a photographer or cinematographer, if you've been here for my other classes, you realize that learning the settings of your camera is extremely important, and being able to change things up on the fly depending on the controls that you have is also extremely important. Here's the modes that you'll have to remember. So photo mode, that's going to allow you to capture stills and frames rather than take videos. Time lapse, the video will record over a duration of time, anywhere from 30 minutes to 3 hours. And then it's going to play it back within seconds or minutes. Great for capturing sunsets or sunrises, or if there's a lot of movement in an area, you can set the camera up and let it record. A lot of fun stuff that you can do there. And then video. You can record video for whatever duration that you want, whatever quality you want, with features like hyper smooth also built into it. And then here is what you can expect from all of this. So again, when watching or using a GoPro, the idea is action, the idea is movement, stability. The really cool part about all of these cameras is that they give you this amazing first-person view, and they're almost indestructible. Obviously, if you throw this thing at a brick wall, it's going to break. However, it's a really, really durable camera. So, I guess, why use an action camera if you're someone who's new to this and you're not familiar? I like to use these 4 pictures as examples. So, number 1, let's look at the top left photo. That mount that they're using on the tree there are so many accessories you can buy for the GoPro, for the action camera. Whatever it is that you're doing, you can find an accessory that allows you to use this camera in the best way possible. The picture on the top right just gives you the first person view unlike anything else. There's no other camera this small that can attach to you and make it look like you are almost in a video game. Number 3, waterproofing, the bottom left-hand corner. There is nothing better than being able to take your camera underwater on that vacation you and the family have been planning. What's better than going in the blue waters of the Caribbean or the Bahamas and taking a camera in there and seeing fish swimming around? There's so many cool little things like that that you can get for it, and it's amazing that these cameras already come waterproof. There's not much more you have to add on unless you're going deep down. And then lastly, it's just really fun. I look at the camera on top of the dog and I just think how silly that is. There's no reason to do it, but if you're a big fan of your dogs or you just want to go have fun with your friends or family, whatever it is, there's so much that you can do with this camera. It's a versatile camera, it's small, it's compact, portable. The waterproofing feature is fantastic. So if you are someone who has a mirrorless or a DSLR camera, you're looking to add a little bit more flair in your videos or your projects, this could be a great thing to add within your video and content to really boost whatever it is you're trying to do. Drones. Now there's a lot to talk about with drones, but I'm keeping it as bare bones as possible. One of the things that we do have to talk about is the current state of DJI drones in the US. We are hoping that it's getting better, but at the current moment, DJI is not allowed to sell any drones in the United States. We've been waiting to get more products in, but there have been some issues with products being seized at customs. So DJI has submitted paperwork and everything that they need to get these in, so we're hoping within the new 2026 year we can really see their products come back into the United States. They're getting ready to announce some of the new drones like the Mavic 4 Pro, which at the current moment I have no access, no information or anything else too. So we're really hoping that changes soon because they're really fun. In that regard though, drones are one of the most popular, if not the most popular, categories outside of standard mirrorless or DSLR cameras. And why? Because of the versatility. These drones are incredibly capable. They can fly great distances and record. They can get 4K video. They've got battery life that can last 40 minutes in the sky flying, return to home features and safety features. There's so many things involved with the DJI products and with these drones that if you're a user who's getting ready to use this for the first time, it won't be rocket science. You'll be able to get off the ground and going in no time. There's some different drone types out there that I think we should talk about those so that we are educated on this. Single rotors, they're going to look like a typical helicopter. Your quadcopter, though, is the most popular style of drones sold on the consumer level. These are the drones that we're talking about today. Within that category, there's FPV drones, which they need goggles to fly, but typically only come as a quadcopter. And then there's Cine drones, which I would just say is the standard drone. And that's going to be flies as a quadcopter, but has a high-quality camera and tracking feature. The FPV drone does as well too, but typically it's that tracking feature and that high-powered camera on the Cine drone that separates the two. Hexacopters exist too. They're 6-bladed copters, and they're great for filming and stability in the air. However, most consumers won't see this unless you have a pilot's license of some sort. And then lastly, a fixed-wing rotor, which is more of a plane experience and great for people who want less copter and more plane experience. More people who want not necessarily to fly a drone, but they want to feel like a true pilot flying maybe a plane or something of that nature. Now, when it comes to the controller, there are two controllers that you're going to see, Pro versus phone controller. No matter what, the drone will require some form of screen to be used when you're flying. DJI, for example, will have you connect your phone with the controller. But they also have Pro controllers that has the screen built into it, so you don't need to actually use the screen anymore. Both products are great. Everyone's a little bit different with how they like that. I personally like the Pro controller. Keeps my phone in my pocket so that way I'm not distracted by that, and I can just focus in on flying as I'm going. But another difference too is in price point value. Most of the time you'll see a standard controller cost a lot less than your Pro controllers, just given the technology. So budget friendly wise, are you going to get a difference in flight or experience? Not necessarily. But if you're someone who doesn't want to waste their phone battery, doesn't want the idea of a text notification coming in while they're flying, then I might recommend do the Pro controller. Now, what you have to know about the actual controller. These are the controls. Some are going to be a little bit different, but for the most part, all drones should have very similar features. So, control sticks. One joystick will control your up and down movement as well as rotation. The other will control your front and backwards and side to side movement. Antennas. Point them outwards. These are your connection point between the drone and the controller. The gimbal dial, rotational control over the drone's camera. The record button. Clicking this will record or take a photo. Your focus or shutter button. This will give you a refocus on what you're filming or shooting, or it will give you control over the shutter. RTH gives you the ability to send the drone back to the place it took off from. Please do not use this if you're on a moving object. I like to stress the moving object part. If you're on a boat and you're flying and you try to hit the RTH button, it's going to land in the spot where it took off from. So it's going to go right back into the water. So be careful of that. Again, the drones are pretty smart. They're not going to land themselves into the water on purpose. However, it will hover over and it will give a little bit of a hard time, if that makes sense. So just keep that in mind. Try not to use the RTH button if you're at home, if you're in a moving object. Try to only use the RTH button if you are on a still or flat or non-moving object. Now, just like the GoPro, the on-screen information that is available to you is extremely important. While you might not be making changes and control changes on the physical drone or on the screen itself, you will be going through and actually seeing everything that's on there. So on the screen of your controller, you're going to see the distance from you and the drone. You're going to see the altitude of the drone. You're going to have the ability to switch between photo and video. There will be a map with the geofencing and surrounding area on there. The feature active track, you can cancel or start it from the screen. There's another return to home RTH button on the screen, and there's an immediate land button also on the screen. Again, why do these matter? It's just so that way you have visibility and tracking on all this, but also so you can grab it and click it at a glance. Now, this is probably the most important aspect of the drones that people don't think about. The FAA, the Federal Aviation Association, and geofencing. These are the two most important things as a new drone flyer that you should be aware of. If you're buying a drone and it's under 249 grams, technically there isn't anything that you need to do unless the work you're making with this video or with this drone is for work or business or pay. Ask yourself as you're making this video, is it just for my enjoyment? You can share it with others, but are you making this video because you want to make it and enjoy it? Well, then that's totally fine. Are you making this video because someone's offering you $100 to make a video if you fly around their business and put something together? Then technically you need that permit. You can be penalized without that permit, so please keep that in mind. But if you have a drone that is above 249 grams, you have to register it. And this can be done on the FAA.gov website. At the time of this class, when I first started, it cost about $5. It included a course, information that needed to be read, and then from there you had to clearly write the permit number on the drone. The reason this is done is so that way, on the off chance that someone stops you and pulls you aside and runs or takes a look at the drone, this at least has the numbers and the information on there that you need in order to make sure that it's registered properly, and that way you get your property back. Now, if you have that already, and now you're ready to step it up and do the next step, Part 107 is what you need. Part 107 is where you pay about $175. You take a course on flying, and then after completion, you can now do commercials or business-based work with your drone. If you are someone who is interested in doing this, there is a lot of information you need to know. There's a lot of classes that you can take, and there are more licenses that you can get depending on the class of drone you're going. For the smaller drones that you see here at Apple Electronics that you're going to see in most retail stores, Part 107 should be more than enough. The last thing I like to tell people about for your safety is geofencing. Geofencing is a virtual wall. The drone will not allow you to push forward or fly in this area, and typically fencing exists around airports, government buildings, national parks, and certain cities and properties. Some people, though, won't connect their drone to certain Wi-Fi signals or update or do certain features, and you can technically fly into those spaces on accident. So you must be very, very careful as a drone pilot, as a user, to make sure that you're not putting your drone or yourself at jeopardy. So be aware where you're flying, check the map, check the surrounding areas, see what the rules are. A lot of the times when it comes to flying your drones, what you're able to do is see the area you're in and figure out what altitude you can be at, how high you can go, or altitude and high, what the distance between you and your drone is allowed to be, or if you're even allowed to fly in that area at all. Important things to look at and check in on before you start flying. And these are some cool clips of why I like drones so much. On the left corner, you can see the active track feature going into effect, that little green square on them. You've got this beautiful flight over Brooklyn Bridge. It looks like you're on the beaches of either a Florida coast or somewhere really warm. But you can see this larger-than-life kind of landscape that you're able to get, and these beautiful videos and pictures. Even this being just a small little GIF and just playing back and forth really just should convey and show off how amazing all this looks. And that leads me into the main reason for why use a drone. It's to accomplish things you've never been able to accomplish before. I think for any photographer or cinematographer, people who are working in weddings or in banquets and doing photos or video, this is the opportunity for you to use something that might elevate your entire game to a whole new direction. Not only that though, but it's going to allow you to use and play with features and things you've probably never even done before. You can get higher than you could before. It's less hassle with you having to use a camera. There's just so many benefits in my mind to why a drone could be beneficial to your camera arsenal. Camcorders. Camcorders, I'm going to eventually move into the FX lineup. There's new cameras coming out, one being the Nikon ZR, which is primarily going to be a video-centric, interchangeable lens camera. And then soon we should be also getting in the FX lineup from Sony. The FX3 and the FX30, if I'm not mistaken. And why does all this matter with camcorders? Because for some people, they don't care about photo. We want to rely on video and the more video-focused controls that we might see on camcorders or FX cameras. So again, camcorders, very similar to regular cameras, but again, their buttons focus in on the actual camcorder. So you have your power button, you have a record button, the zoom toggle, your photo button, a focus knob or dial, iris or aperture control, shutter speed, white balance, and then your traditional playback controls. Seems pretty straightforward and simple. Again, camcorders are meant to mimic cameras pretty similarly, if not spot on, minus the video features. But jump a little bit ahead, and these are the settings on the camcorder that really change from what you're looking at a regular camera. So start out with the video quality. Setting your camera for HD, 4K, or any other qualities your camcorder is capable of. And I strongly recommend choose it based on what you are using and shooting. If you're primarily focused on the videos or on social media, do you really necessarily need 4K or can HD get the job done? And if you're making something that's going to be showing as a commercial or maybe something as a bigger project, then you probably want to go more of the 4K route. Image stabilization. Setting your camera to have image stabilization on will ensure you have a non-shaky video. Face detection. Most camcorders will have an auto face detection, which depending on what you're filming can keep humans in focus. Frame rate. The rate at which you're capturing frames or for your video. Lesser rate, better for simple or standard videos. Faster rates for sports, action, or slow-mo. The bit rate is a setting that helps your camera take in more information. The higher your bit rate is set to, the more info the camera's taking in. And then exposure control. Controls the darkness and the lightness of your video. A lot of these features are similar to what you might see on regular mirrorless or DSLR cameras, but again, keep in mind that these settings are very specific for video, and they're going to help turn your video from maybe that old, let's say, Sony Handycam video into something that might look more professional. Now again, I don't have much on camcorders because they are pretty straightforward, and a lot of it is within the tech of the product. How much this product can do versus the other, what benefits this camera might have versus the other. Those are the sorts of things that you'll be seeing or expecting when you're looking at this. But overall, what's great about camcorders? They're handy. They're very small, compact. They usually come with a wrist strap that you can use. That being said, the screen tilts out on the side and you can get really great angles like you see in the top right corner. The accessories that are available for this, the shotgun arm, the boom microphone, the connections that you can make. You can keep this very bare bones and simple, but you can really add on a lot of features onto your camcorder to really spruce it up and make it powerful. And then lastly, the cinematic shots that you're able to get. With this camera, it's not as just traditional as you just turning and being able to make a video on your standard camera. the ability to focus in and take something that's more cinematic and really get a clean, beautiful shot is very evident in the camcorder usage. So give camcorders a shot. If you're focusing on video and you don't have a camera that does fantastic video, then you might want to look into that. And if you do have one, you might want to start looking into FX lineup cameras, things that are made specifically for video and have a very small amount of photo footprint. Last but not least, 360 cameras. This is one that it's a little difficult to talk about because it is one of those cameras that you really need to experience it to understand it. These have been blowing up on social media. They're becoming some of the coolest cameras that you can get around the world now. People are really loving these 360 cameras. So, what makes 360s different than other cameras? Why do I care? Well, first and foremost, it works and functions like all other action cameras. But it has two 180-degree firing cameras. That's where the 360 comes in. There are two lenses on both sides of the camera, shooting at the same exact time. If you don't like that, you can do it where it only works with one of the lenses and you can make it like an action camera. But the both of them together is amazing. That being said, a lot of people will attach a selfie stick to them and it'll make it invisible, which I think is another great thing. Technically, the two cameras come together, it films 360, but technically not 365. That being said, there is a seam that's in the camera where the lenses don't touch. And what that does is it specifically is there to hide the selfie stick. So if you're holding the camera on a selfie stick, you will see you like this, but you won't see the stick to the camera. You'll basically just see everything else. This camera creates a third-person view unlike other cameras. There really isn't anything quite like a 360 camera. And one of the coolest things is that they can be viewed on a VR headset. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about editing these things in a second and how you can edit and play with the videos that you're creating. But if that's not something you want to do and you let's say go on a mountain biking trip through the Galapagos. Well, one of the things that you could then do is then take all that video and footage, watch it on a VR headset, and as you turn your head, you'll see everything around you, just like you did when you were there the first time. They're small, they're compact, they're durable. Much like action cameras, they can take a beating, they can go underwater, they're incredible. Because it's hard to write down notes to explain it, I'd rather say it to you. Motto of GoPro, or of the Insta360 is to think bold, but it's also to shoot first and think later. Using this camera, you can just record videos all you want. Afterwards, then going through, you're able to edit the viewpoint. What were you wanting to focus on? Maybe when you were riding that mountain bike, you spotted a turtle. You want to focus in on the turtle. You can circle the turtle on the video, and you will continue to focus on that turtle until it's gone and out of sight, and then you can switch your viewpoint to another place. This is all done in post, which I think is even more incredible. That being said, there's an app that you can get with the camera. It's completely free with it, but it gives you the ability to edit the video both on desktop and on your phone. And if you were curious on what that invisible stick looked like, well, that gentleman walking through London right there, that's a perfect example. You can't see the stick in his hand. You only see him drinking a cup of coffee. He's turned the perspective up a little bit so it looks very kind of dystopian. But you can make it where it just looks like an everyday scene, and then you can edit and change the direction, much like you're seeing in the top left corner. Shoot first, think later. Why use a 360 camera? I think for most people, a 360 camera might not necessarily be what they need. But if you have every other piece of equipment that you could imagine, and you need something to add a little bit more pizzazz or fun to a video or production or something that you're doing, then I think that using a 360 camera is a fantastic idea. It gives you the ability to have flexibility and play all in one, creating professional content and videos, but while also having just a kind of a silly time. They're popular, they're continuously coming out with better and better models, and I think one of the coolest things is that for one of the first times ever from the GoPro to now, we're really seeing a rivalry start to form where now people are starting to get excited for not only just action cameras, but the 360 cameras as well too. And if you get bored, go online. There's fun social media videos that people are making with these cameras where they look absolutely ridiculous. But that's all I got for you guys for this class. Thank you guys for being here all month. I know we had a couple schedule changes just due to me being out of town. There will be some next week as well, or next month for October, and I'll tell you more about those as we go. But our first class of the month is the first Thursday of October, which is going to be, drum roll please, October the 2nd. So I'm going to see everybody here on October the 2nd for the intro to camera class, the beginner camera class. For those of you who weren't here in the first month or the first session that I had, this is probably one of the more important classes that we run here, the beginner class. This is the true way to get into photography at the kind of front door level and then slowly but surely make your way up. We talk about things like automatic settings and the introductory settings that you should know, and then we end the class by talking about lenses, and we sprinkle in some content creation knowledge in there so you can start to educate yourself. But again, guys, I teach this class every Thursday from 5:30 to 7. We do it here at the Apt Electronics, but we also do it here on YouTube at Apt Electronics. I'll stay on the line for a few more minutes. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, please chat away right now. If not, I'll sign off in a few minutes here. Alright, well, it doesn't look like anybody has any questions for me, so I won't keep this running for too much longer. But guys, thank you as always for joining. My name is Saxon. I host the camera class every Thursday from 5:30 to 7. Next week is our intro to photography. Again, that is October the 2nd, that Thursday. So we'll start off nice with that. If you guys have any questions, comments, and concerns for me before then, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email, whatever you like. And as always, guys, keep taking photos, keep having a good time.